I met Marion when she and some ladies, remember Polly Silverman? They wanted to look at the South Lakefront, and they actually walked it. And we made a little booklet. And Marion came into the Lake Michigan Federation office and typed it. It was before the pedestrian access study that was done by the Department of Environment that led to a number of changes. And it also connected me with many of you. With that, we began a project in 2006, and actually it was prior to that Friends of the Parks Board looked at the Lake Michigan Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance. And its first policy is to complete Chicago's lakefront parks. And this is an ordinance that Friends of the Parks has really tried to uphold, to encourage the city and the Park District not to just see it as, to really take it seriously. And so we decided that, especially with the Burnham Centennial celebration, which was coming at that time 3 or 4 years away, that we would begin an initiative to complete the lakefront parks. 30 miles of lakefront move along Chicago shoreline. 26 of those miles are public lakefront, but approximately 2 miles on the south and 2 miles on the north are not part of that lakefront park system. And so we thought maybe it's time to at least think about that, to establish a vision. I don't think it's going to work. I'm going to have to come back over here. I'll try to move around so you can see around me. We started on the south lakefront, but we first looked at the entire lakefront and established with the red lines that area on the south lakefront where there was no pedestrian or bike access, and also looked at the north. We decided to do this, as I said, because of the Burnham Centennial celebration of the Lakefront Protection Ordinance, and also because there were a number of other projects that were related. We took a look at Burnham's plan of 1909, and we didn't attempt to try to follow his plan, but more or less to look at his spirit of making bold plans. So one of our goals was to create a fully accessible lakefront, to complete the 30-mile continuous lakefront path. We also took a look at the reason we have so much lakefront open to the public is because Chicago had used the lake, filling in the lake as a way of protecting against erosion. And in the process, because the lake and its submerged bottom belongs in trust to the public, it's not privately owned, then that fill became public, and we established, in a sense, a public lakefront. We also know that Chicago, a world-class city, one that is celebrated, we're now looking at some exciting events in the next decade, but out of 20 cities, we rank 20th in terms of open space. And this is using a very narrow standard of 2 acres per 1,000 persons. One cost line to deal with that deficiency is looking at an appropriate, environmentally sound program of filling in the lake so that we can increase the green space we need for our health, for our quality of life, to improve our air, to improve our water quality. The other feature of Chicago is that we have scoured the lakefront. We have engineered the lakefront, and we don't have much habitat for either aquatic or wildlife. And we're also very concerned about the bird flyway. So again, to plan for completing the lakefront parks was a way of addressing a number of these very important issues. also at the fact that Chicago is on the shores of a Great Lake, and that we would have an opportunity, if we design these ideas well, to contribute to Lake Michigan's ecosystem. So our planning principles were public access along the lake, more parkland and beaches, a continuous lakefront path, greenway corridors to the lake, and which would connect with other bike trails in projects that you've heard about tonight. We wanted to restore and improve the Lake Michigan coastal ecosystem, including natural habitat. Also, we included the preservation of cultural history, which we learned in working with the communities was a very important part of any planning. And then we also, while this was in a sense, a new planning effort, we wanted to respectfully pay attention to those planning efforts that had occurred or that were going on simultaneously. So we wanted to start in, but it's not as if we were the only game in town. Our ecological goals were habitat creation, stormwater management, and a sustainable environmental design. And our design team looked at various plants, particularly those that would promote and would be good for birds. We looked at ways of increasing, or really not increasing, but just creating aquatic habitat as well as bird habitat. And we also were looking at ways of planning and designing a lakefront park so that we would encourage our youth in many ways. Now, a healthy Great Lake ecosystem does involve a number of features, and these were taken into account as the architects worked with the community. But we began on the South Lakefront in May of 2006 at Calumet Park. And we identified 3 areas on the South Lakefront that were not open to the public or continuous lakefront path use. So you have, I think it's, you have a little piece between the South Shore Cultural Center and the Rainbow Beach with just Ash Beach Park there. Then you have the area that's been discussed tonight, the 580-acre, the northeastern edge of the U.S. Steel site. And then you have the triangular bathtub that is called a confined disposal facility, which is where we place the dredge materials from the Calumet River. We also looked at this piece of Iroquois Landing, which is under control of the Port District, but which is not used for maritime activities. And I have some of the slides that you can recognize. Rod's photography here, just giving you a sense of what you all probably know very well. We took a look at the fact that for a large area, you can't even really see the lake. Now, with these background materials, we spent a day at Calumet Park with people from various groups here in this room, names that we got from our elected officials. We had people like Mike Rostowski, Dr. Mike Rostowski from the Illinois State Geological Survey, Vasil Jerka from the Department of Environment, to help us understand some of the basic characteristics of the lake and the lakefront. And then we started in working with 4 architects who would then sketch the ideas the community had.